and welcome to the first edition of Exponential DFS Podcast. My name is Michael LaPerch. I go by That Guy Expo on DraftKings and FanDuel, and I'm joined by Corey. I'll let you go, Corey, introduce yourself to the YouTube channel.
Yeah, my name's Corey Fireball, and I go by Legion of Boom 258 on DraftKings and FanDuel.
All right, so what we're going to be doing today, and basically every day during the week, apart from the weekends, we're going to be going over the MLB slate for now when it's MLB season, kind of break down position by position, game by game, talk about strategy. Corey and I are both mainly cash game players, so that's what we'll be focusing on is cash games over GPPs. We'll, of course, mention some GPP plays or guys we think will be under owned on that day, but mainly we'll be talking about cash games. So we'll go ahead and jump into the slate, kind of a quick overview on the slate. It's a pretty heavy slate today. I believe it's 15 games, right? Yeah, so 30 pitchers to look at, plenty of hitters to look at. You have a game in Coors, which is always making the slate a little bit either more fun or more frustrating, depending on how you want to look at it. So kind of, Corey, if you want to kind of give an overview of the slate, what's some stuff that kind of stood out to you today?
Well, compared to the last couple of days, the pitching is a lot better on this slate, obviously. You got Kershaw and Strasburg up top, and, there's definitely some really good hitters that you're going to have to get into your lineup with Coors for sure.
Yeah, and definitely it's interesting with it being another 12-run over-under in Vegas because it typically, when I've been playing lately, it's been around 11.5, and yesterday, of course, I think was bet up to 12, and then the Rockies got 11 on their own. So it was a pretty high-scoring day yesterday, I would say. I didn't get to play because I was out of town, but definitely seemed like the core stacks was going to take down a lot of stuff. So, like you mentioned, so you have Kershaw against the Giants. So what's your opinion on Kershaw today with us having cores and him being almost 14K?
I think in cash games, it's going to be really hard to not play Kershaw, especially on DraftKings. I think on FanDuel, you could look maybe more towards Strasburg because he's a little bit cheaper.
Okay.
And the win's a little bit more important, and Strasburg's like almost 100 points more favorite.
Yeah,
so the
definitely.
win's almost more guaranteed, and that 12 points is pretty big. But I feel like on DraftKings, they're only about a 400. Was it like 400 difference in price?
Yeah, it's Kershaw's 13.9 and Straw's 13.5.
I feel like it's especially in cash games, it's going to be a little hard to fade Kershaw. I mean, I really like Kershaw.
I could see that. Yeah, I haven't completely broken down who I'm going to use 100% yet. Just kind of wrote down a lot of notes on all the guys I have. I mean, I have like 8 guys I'm considering right now for cash.
Yeah.
But definitely, it's hard to fade Kershaw anytime he pitches in cash just because he's been so consistent. He is favored. But like you said on DraftKings, the win doesn't really matter. It's a nice bonus, especially when you're paying 14K for a guy. It is a little interesting to me that the Dodgers are only expected to score 2.5 runs.
Yeah, I guess
that's what really stood out. I know that's on Bovada, so I don't know what some of the other sports books are looking at for runs, but that definitely stood out because when you have a team that's favored, they were minus 162 when I looked for the Dodgers, but they're not even expected to outscore the Giants for team total runs. So there seems to be some confusion or just like things you can't predict for this game right now that it's obviously going to be a low-scoring game, a 5.5 over-under. I think that's the lowest I ever remember playing on a slate. So definitely either of those guys could be cash game worthy. The only issue I have with Cueto is just the Ks. You don't really know when he's going to strike guys out, and the Dodgers will strike out. They have a 20.5% K rate against righties, but the issue I have for him is if you look at his upside, when you're paying 13K for a pitcher, you want him to be able to at least say he is close to a 40-point ceiling. And with Cueto, I mean, you look at his games, the only games he's truly had 40-point ceilings have been, he's had 3 starts against the Padres. That's really it. I mean, when you face the Padres, you should have a nice ceiling when you're Cueto. I mean, he had that CGSO. So he's had our complete game. I don't think it was a CGSO. I don't remember correctly. But definitely, I don't see paying for Cueto. I don't know what he is on FanDuel. I know you play more on FanDuel than I do. But when you only roster one pitcher on FanDuel anyway, and I'm assuming he's close in price to Strasburg, he would be safer on both sides. Honestly, I would pay the 400 extra for Strasburg if I was even considering it.
Yeah, I was just about to say that exactly. It's tough to pay that price with I mean, you're almost putting him in a Kershaw and Strasburg category, and he's just not as good as them both.
Yeah, I mean, he's been great this year.
Yeah,
he's been consistent, but on this slate, 13-1 for him, I think it is a lot when you have Coors and you have those other two guys in that top tier.
And if he doesn't get his strikeouts either, and then Kershaw and Strasburg go ham, you're in a deep hole already.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's any way that you can fit both those guys on DraftKings. You're paying almost 27. You're paying over $27K for your pitching, which is basically half your salary base when there's a Coors slate with a 12 over under, and there's some other games that are in pretty good spots for hitters. You're going to have to pick one of those two if you want to go to the top tier. I mean, do I think today's a day you could get away with maybe not going to the top tier? Maybe, if Coors goes off. But you look at Coors, a lot of those guys are expensive, and we'll get to that. But I think the difficult decision today is definitely going to be, do you want Strasburg or Kershaw?
Yeah.
Why? Is the $400 really going to make a huge difference? I mean, you could argue Kershaw definitely has a better opportunity for a complete game than Strasburg. He doesn't go beyond 6 innings, really. But the strikeout upside's never truly there when you're facing the Giants. So that's going to have to be something in that top tier. So what are a couple mid-tier guys, probably between maybe the 10 and 12K range that you're looking at today?
Okay, well, just one sec, just so they know. Yeah. Do not pay for Stephen Wright today.
No.
It's obviously over-expensive. DraftKings, everybody knows that DraftKings prices up guys for their matchup, so just don't do it. Not saying he's a bad pitcher, but just don't pay that much.
Hey, I'm a Red Sox fan, but whenever you see a guy that's 12-2 facing a team with a 4-run total, no. I mean, Minnesota strikes out. He's been good this year, but it's hard to predict a knuckleball or strikeouts, and when you're paying over 12K for a guy, the only way I would pay 12K for him would be if he's the only good pitcher on a slate, which is obviously not the case today. So definitely do not pay for him. Are there any other guys you would say that are kind of in that mid to top range that you would just completely avoid today?
For cash games, it would be, Sale and Kluber too, but you could definitely play them in a GPP because they're probably going to be really low owned, I would assume.
Yeah, I don't like Kluber at all.
I don't either.
I don't like him for GPPs either just because LA doesn't strike out. The Angels don't strike out. They're still 16%. So Kluber, he has a nice K rate, everything, but the Angels are starting to hit the ball better. Last 30 days, they're doing a lot better. They still are under 19%. I'm sorry, under 16% for the season and under 18% the last 30 days for Case. So definitely, I wouldn't pay for him. And like you said, Sale's pitching a contact a lot more. Yeah. And Kansas City, they don't strike out either. So definitely, those would be two I would not play in cash and probably wouldn't pay up for in a GPP because I think today's the GPP day where you try to get a high upside, low tier, mid tier guy and stack some bats.
Yeah.
All right, so some mid range you do like. So we kind of covered the top tier and mid tier that we don't like. What are some mid tier guys you do?
So for cash games, one thing I'm looking at is if you're trying to get Kershaw or Strasburg, which most people will, and you're obviously going to need to get some bats into your lineup tonight. I think one way to doing that would be to paying for Matt Harvey.
Okay.
Just because he's not very expensive. He's like 8.7K or
8.3 actually.
8.3. Yeah, he hasn't been good this year, but he's been better his last 2 games. And if you want to get someone like Kershaw, you're going to have to pay down a little bit to get some bats into your lineup, and I think he's one way you could possibly do that.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played around with my cash game lineup yet, but definitely that's one thing that stood out to me. And he's not even maybe mid-tier today. He's kind of in that low-tier price. And, I mean, he has the talent. The issue's been this year, he hasn't been striking anyone out, and his fastball velocity was a problem. It's been better. Last 2 starts, like you said, he had a really good start. Who was that first start against there? It was against...
I know he got one against the Marlins.
Yeah, so he had a great start against the White Sox, which was surprising to a lot of people because he got destroyed by Washington 2 times in a row. after coming out of pitching in Coors. The only problem I have with Harvey is, again, even though he's pitched well his last 2 starts, his strikeouts are way down overall.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the Marlins start, he pitched 7, he only gave up a run, but he only struck out 3 guys, and he only had 17 points. So is that going to kill you today if he gets you 17 at 8K? No, because you can get the bats. So that's a good way to lean in cash, I think, because plus Milwaukee, they have the highest K percentage on the slate today versus righties. It's close. Tampa and Houston are right there, but they have the highest K percentage versus righties, and they have the second highest in the last 30 days. The only one that beats them is the Mets. So definitely an interesting place to look. I mean, I would say another mid-tier guy I like looking at right now is McCullers.
Yeah, I was going to say McCullers, too.
Another one of those guys can pay a lot of batters. Tampa's not that great versus righties. Their K rate, again, is 25% versus righties. McCullers has like a 29.5% K rate himself. And what I like seeing in a lot of pitchers that I like to roster in cash, his ground ball fly ball rate's 3. So he's not giving up fly balls, and especially even in Tampa, the ball doesn't fly. It's even if they get the ball in the air, which teams haven't been, he's going to be fine there. And it's a low total game overall, so definitely another place. So what you're looking at?
Yeah, I got one thing on McCullers too. Tampa, I know earlier in the year they were talking about it. They were almost just swinging for the fence and more worried about hitting home runs than they were about actually just getting the ball in place. And like you said, McCullers is more of a ground ball pitcher. He's not giving up a lot of home runs.
Definitely.
So that's just something else to consider too for cash.
Like you said, when you look at their lineup, that's just true. I mean, it's guys like that, they're going to swing for the fences. And, I mean, the problem with McCullers, I would say, I mean, the pitch count's been there. He's only, like, when you look at his box scores on DK, right, it's pretty misleading because he hasn't thrown a lot of games this year. He started 5 games. So when you look at his splits and you see he has a 25 average at home and 9.9 fantasy points on the road. Well, when you look at his starts on the road, he's started 2 games on the road. In Boston at the beginning of the year, where he got shelled, and then in Arizona. So it's not like he's pitched poorly. I mean, you look at his Ks, he's consistently K'ing 7 or more, really, once he's been back healthy. So it's definitely an interesting spot. And the argument you could make against McCullers would be, is he worth $2,000 more than Harvey today?
Yeah.
That would be the big issue. So I think if you're paying up for Kershaw Strasburg, it would be you could pay for McCullers, but you could definitely make the argument, why would I pay $2,000 more for McCullers? Is he safer today? Absolutely. Milwaukee's not an awful lineup like people think anymore. So they could get to Harvey for sure. That's the only. So if you're paying up for safety, that would be the reason why, I would say. What are your thoughts on Hamill today?
I think he's a decent play. I feel like he is a little bit overpriced on DK. He's 11K. I think he's more of like a 9 or an 8K because when I was doing his numbers, he almost has numbers similar to Matt Harvey. They're pretty close. They're getting there. I mean, he strikes out a little bit more. He's been striking out more than Harvey, but there's some stats that he has that are pretty close to Harvey. So that kind of just led me to believe that he's a little bit overpriced because of his matchup.
I can see that. The only thing I would say, the difference between him and Harvey, they are similar numbers even when you look at XFIP, I suppose. I didn't really see that.
Yeah, and their Sierra is about the same, but yeah, he strikes out. He's actually about walking the same as Harvey. He's actually walking more batters than Harvey.
I didn't catch that. Harvey's Sierra is 4.32 and Hamill's 4.23, which is interesting. I wouldn't have really thought that. Hamill's been definitely safer.
Yeah, I mean,
he's had bad games. Do I think he's safe against Atlanta? Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Do I think he has a 33-point ceiling? No. And the thing that always concerns me, I don't think this will be an issue today, but we've seen it lately with Joe Madden that he'll pull his pitchers for pinch hitters pretty early.
Yeah, they're in a close game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it being a close game against Atlanta, but definitely it's something to think about when you're paying $11,000 for a guy on this kind of slate when you have guys above him. And honestly, I would rather pay for McCullers at 10.3 and save the $800 if I'm going to go into that tier. So the only other kind of Andrisi is only intriguing because of his matchup, but I can't pay that for a guy that doesn't strike anyone out. I mean, he's a 16% K rate. I think people might consider him today. I don't think he's going to be highly owned at all, but just because of, he only has a 3.5 team total expected for Houston. Houston's K's a ton. He's at home. When you look at his average at home, it's inflated because he had one good start against Oakland. So definitely something that people might look at. But, I mean, if you're intelligent, I think today for 16% K rate for 9K, again, like you said, you can get Harvey for 83 or you can get Andrisi for 87. Who would you rather have? Well, rather have Harvey. The only other guy, last guy I even want to mention, and this is probably more of an off-the-wall GPP play, is Hellickson.
Yeah.
The thing that's scary is the 4.5 team total. That's going to scare a lot of people away, and that's what makes him a great GPP play, I think. He's really cheap. When you look at how he's pitched this year, he's pitched really well. His Sierra's 3.56, his xFIP's 3.47, he has a 24.5% K rate. He's pitched well. And he's thrown against Washington twice. And if you look at his starts against Washington, one was on the road in Washington, which is what this game is, and one was at home in Philly. His start at home, he put up 27.4 points, and on the road he put up 32.8. So he's pitched somewhat inconsistent all year. He's either been kind of one of those guys that could put up close to 30 points, or he can get you like 10. So it's been kind of an inconsistent year for him, but overall he's pitched pretty well, and Washington's a team he's done well against the last two starts out. So it's concerning that Washington's a 275 favorite, and they're at home, and it's a 4.5 team total, but on this kind of slate for 7,600, he kind of goes under the Harvey type play in a GPP. That would be the only thing I would say about Hellickson. So,
yeah.
I mean, if you don't have any other guys, I think we can move on. But definitely, I think trying to fit a Kershaw or Straz in cash should be pretty wise. And I think the kind of the chalky play would probably be one of those two guys with Harvey today. If I had to predict ownership, it's probably going to be Kershaw or Straz, and then Harvey should be. I think Harvey might be above 50%. I would say today on this.
Yeah.
I think for that. McCullers might go under-owned against Tampa.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go position by position in this podcast starting out. We may switch it going game to game, but we'll start out going position by position with the first couple shows and see what happens. But so catcher today is pretty ugly, as usual. What are kind of I have 9 names written down, but I haven't eliminated any, and there's definitely ones here I don't like. What are some of your guys you think might be the chalkier plays today?
Well, if you want to spend up a little bit more at catcher, I think Brian McCann against Pelfrey is a good option. Yep. Or you could go with Wellington Castillo.
Okay.
Those are probably my 2 upper options if I'm going to pay up at catcher. Yeah.
I have those same guys. If I'm spending up, I mean, obviously you have Derek Norris in Coors. You have Nick Hundley in Coors. The issue I have with Norris is he's hitting 7th. They're the away team, so it's not that big of an issue. But definitely, I think facing Gray for the first probably 6 innings or so, he's thrown well. Norris doesn't hit righties well. I don't think I'm going to pay $3,800 for him in Coors batting 7th. I would, like you said, I would much rather pay $3,700 for Wellington at basically the same price. So I don't think I'm going to play any catchers in Coors today. I haven't seen the lineups. I don't think they've come out yet. But the predicted starters are Norris hitting 7th and Hundley hitting, I believe, 8th, 7th or 8th. So one of those two guys, they're probably going to be owned because they're in Coors, but I don't think I'm going to go that route. McCann, like you said, at home against Pelfrey. The only thing I've seen about Pelfrey, I mean, he only has like a 12.1% home run to fly ball rate to lefties. He's giving up over a home run to 9 to lefties, and it's in New York, so you have to consider that. Definitely, he could be chalky, but I don't know if I want to spend $4,100 on a catcher today when I'm probably going to be having to pay up for pitcher. So, I don't know what he is on FanDuel. I would imagine he's probably upper 3s, mid 3s over there. I don't think I have any interest on DK over 4K. He's just too inconsistent. He has home run upside, but so does Wellington for 400 cheaper in Arizona against the lefty. Granted, the guy he's facing doesn't give up many home runs, but still. I think the the most interesting play to me today, and I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger in cash. I'll see. Posey is 3,100 on DK.
Yeah, he's really cheap, obviously, because like we said with DK, they price by matchup, and he's obviously going up against Kershaw, so it's definitely price down.
At home, but
yeah.
He's 3,100, and he hits these, and he's rested. I mean, he hasn't played the last 2 nights, or, past 3 nights, because they had yesterday off, and he didn't play in the Boston series at all. So I would think he's hopefully back to 100%. I'm not sure why he was scratched Tuesday and then didn't play Wednesday. I didn't see the news on that. But definitely interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That would be him and Wellington, I think, are the only mid-tier guys I'm looking at. Rizzo's interesting because he's leading off in Arizona against the lefty, so that's intriguing at 37. So I guess those 3 would be the 3 I would consider in that 3 to 4K range. I don't think I'm going to pay it for McCann.
No. And then,
what else?
McCann is 3-1 on FanDuel too.
Okay, so that's a much better price on FanDuel for him.
Yeah.
So he's probably going to be pretty chalky over there at 3-1. So even the difference in price there doesn't. I don't like it for 4-1.
Yeah, and catcher, if you're looking to go cheap, even cheaper than Posey, the only guy, and I don't even really like this play, but I did the stats and pulled it up. He's not a bad play, but he's not great. He's been really bad this year. It's Russell Martin. He's only 2,800. I wouldn't go there, but if you want to punt it, you can. But I won't go there. But I mean,
I could see it.
Just a cheap guy.
I'll be honest. If I'm going to pay 28 for him, though, I would much rather just pay 27 for Sal Perez against Sale. Like I get it's Sale, but it's Sal Perez at 2,700. So it's definitely there are some interesting plays there that aren't good plays given their matchup, but given their price, it's intriguing. Yeah. I have 2 complete punt plays. Ruiz is expected to hit 5th. For 2K. He's facing Strasburg, but he's 2K. And Kurt Suzuki is expected to start against for Minnesota. He's probably going to hit 8th. So, you're paying for a guy hitting 8th, but he's min-salary again. He's 2K, facing a knuckleballer. So anything can happen. I don't know what his BVP is against knuckleball. I haven't looked that up yet. But definitely an interesting punt play there. So I would say if you had to guess the chalk here on DK, what would be your guess? I think it might be kind of split up today.
Yeah.
If you had to guess kind of the higher-owned guy, what would it be?
I would say Wellington should be the higher-owned guy. I mean, I always say that, and then he ends up never being, but that's who I would play. I mean,
I could see it. Yeah, like you said, he always goes under own, and he always has home run upside. Yeah. I wouldn't doubt seeing someone like Kurt Suzuki decently owned. I think Miguel Montero might be kind of chalk. Just given Corbin's been kind of hit or miss. Corbin strikes out a lot of guys, but he's bad against righties. Real Muto's decent against lefties. It's in Arizona. I could see Real Muto being one of the higher-owned guys, but that's something I still have to break down and kind of analyze on how I want the rest of my roster to break out. I might just throw in Kurt Suzuki or Posey and just hope for the best, or Sal Perez. I mean, all of them are not fundamentally bad plays. I think I'd probably rather play Perez at 2,700 against Sale pitching in contact than Posey against Kershaw, though. So definitely something to look at. All right, so for first base, I have only 6 guys written down. It's an interesting day at first base.
I got 6, too.
Who's the chalk? I think, to me, it's pretty obvious.
I guess
there's 2 kind of chalky plays, I would say.
I mean, I don't know if they're going to... they should be chalky. I mean, I could be guessing the wrong names, but they're my favorite plays. I think Rizzo is probably one of my favorite first basemen.
Okay. I could see that, too. I didn't really consider him as chalky. I mean, he might be. Force is awful versus lefties, and he's giving up 2 home runs and 9 to lefties.
Yeah, but, I mean, the Cubs are still kind of priced up quite a bit, I've noticed. Yeah. I like Goldschmidt, too, a lot at 5K if I'm going to pay 48 for Rizzo.
I like Goldschmidt, I didn't write him down as an option just because of how pricey he was on today. I mean, to me, I think the two chalkier plays, Will Myers is in Coors, batting second as the away team. He'll probably get 5 at-bats or more. He's been on fire. I think he should be probably around 53 or so, but he's not. He's only around 40. He's only 4,900. So that's, like you said, that's not cheap. Because the Goldschmidt's 5K, Rizzo's 48. But I think in that range, I would rather have Will Myers and Coors than Rizzo. I like Rizzo. Bud Norris is bad. But I think I'd rather have Will Myers, even though he's facing Gray. Just that Colorado bullpen's just so bad. He's going to face the bullpen at some point. I mean, and he's hitting second. It's not like he's hitting fifth. So definitely I like him. I think Chris Davis is too cheap.
Yeah, Chris Davis.
Why the Orioles are so cheap on DK today? It seems like they priced him all down. He's 3,400. That's kind of extreme.
People are gonna, I think, maybe move away because Estrada's been actually not bad this year. But I don't think you should be afraid because at one point when he was younger, and a couple years ago, he was one of the worst fly ball pitchers in baseball. He gave up a lot of home runs. He's just had a really good year this year. I don't think you should be scared of the Orioles. Chris Davis is really cheap, and you know what kind of power Chris Davis can bring.
Like you said, I mean, Estrada's still a fly ball pitcher when you look at the numbers. He still has more fly balls than ground balls, and he's not giving up home runs this year as much, so I don't know if you'd expect that to come back and bite him at some point. Toronto, it's not like we're in Baltimore, but that kind of is a little different there, but I mean, whenever Chris Davis is that cheap, I'm interested just because of the upside. I mean, is Will Myers the fundamentally better play? Is Rizzo fundamentally better play? Yes. But when you look at the price, I mean, you can tell me I can get Chris Davis for $1,500 cheaper than Will Myers, and the matchup's not great for Chris Davis, but honestly, the matchup's not that great for Will Myers.
Yeah. John Gray is a good pitcher. I mean, even though
Rizzo has arguably the best matchup.
Yeah.
I think he does. But I don't know if I'll pay that for him. Because what is the Cubs team total today? They do have a 5-run total, so it is there. I mean, he has a 653 xFIP to lefties. He has a 411 WOBA allowed. So definitely I could see it. I might pay down for Chris Davis just because of the matchup, or just because of the price. I think matchup, it's hard to argue that Rizzo doesn't have the best matchup today.
Yeah.
I think those are the only real guys I'm considering. Prince Fielder's price stood out to me, but I can't pay anything for Prince Fielder in cash. But he's 2,800, which is ridiculous. He's been awful, but that's cheap.
And then one thing that I've always stressed about on first base, you got to be careful at first base, too. You don't want to punt because first base is one of the few positions that if you miss, you can be in big trouble just because usually it's a really deep position, so you don't want to get cute with first base usually, I've noticed.
I agree. All right, so moving on to second base, I think Kinsler's in a great spot, but I can't 5K for him today. There's no way. I like Zobrist. He's fine, like you said. Bud Norris, I mean, he's really bad versus lefties and not that great of a pitcher overall. So I could see that. I think the intriguing plays today come in kind of the more obvious spots at second. I don't want Kinsler at 5K. I don't think I'm going to pay Zobrist 42. I don't want to pay for Pedroia. I think the interesting plays, the kind of off-the-wall play for me today would be Caesar.
Yeah.
He's facing Strasburg, but at 2,400, he's hitting second. I mean, honestly, and I heard this the other day. I forgot who mentioned it. It was another analyst that had mentioned this, that, I mean, you get on base and a stolen base there, and there's points. I mean, that's completely true.
It's as good as a home run, almost, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you get a single and a stolen base. I mean, it's basically half a home run. I mean, he's getting 8 points for a base hit and a stolen base. And Strasburg he can give up a stolen base. It's not like he can't. So definitely intriguing. Just if you want to completely punt the position for a guy hitting in the top 3 in the order for 2,400 who can get on base and can run. I mean, he's not going to be facing Strasburg the whole game. Like I said earlier, Strasburg really doesn't get past the 6th inning anymore because he's just so focused on striking guys out. So there's like 7th, 8th, 9th inning that he's still hitting second, granted, and they're the away team. So he'll probably get 4 to 5 at bats easily. I think LeMahieu is interesting. Like we said, I mean, and you look at the run totals today, Colorado is a 6.5 team total. That's pretty high. That's a full run ahead of everyone else. San Diego's the next highest. Again, same thing in Coors. LeMahieu, he always seems to be underpriced because he doesn't really have a ton of home run upside, but he's been hitting home runs lately. So it's, I know last time I rostered him, he homered yesterday, so it's definitely like, it's not like he can't hit a home run. And Cashner's just not a good pitcher, and he's going to get destroyed. So definitely he's interesting. He's 4,400, so it's not like you're going over 5K for a guy you're not confident he's going to homer. Well, he could hit 2 doubles, and you're perfectly happy with that at 4,400. So, who else do you see at this position that you're considering besides LeMahieu as kind of an obvious type play Coors?
I think probably this will probably be my favorite San Diego bat. It's probably Solarte.
Yeah, I have him too.
I think he's he's way too cheap. Yeah, I mean he's probably my favorite San Diego bat.
I'm definitely playing Solarte somewhere. I just don't know if I'm going to fit him in a second or third.
Which really makes him interesting too, because you can kind of move him around a little bit. And I think he will be the chalky second.
If he's not 80% owned today, somewhere, no matter where you play him, second base or third base, if he's not 80% owned, I'll be shocked. 3,600 for a guy probably hitting cleanup in Coors is ridiculous. Regardless of matchup, it doesn't matter.
He's
He's on the away team in Coors hitting cleanup. He's not a bad hitter.
No, he's
he
pretty
could hit a home run. It's probably more likely he'll just drive in some runs, hit some doubles, things like that. But
yeah, I mean, one thing too, what's nice about him, like he said, he's a good hitter. Sometimes when you get people who are newer and they see Coors, they're just going to pay for all the hitters. And what people don't realize, some don't, is Coors, obviously, they price up the hitters quite a bit. And not all those hitters are generally good, so you got to like really dig into them, because some of those hitters are, just because he's leading off in Coors doesn't mean he's a good play, because some teams have some bad hitters, and you got to be careful.
I mean, most of the time I'll pay for someone leading off in Coors, whether they're good or not. But yeah, I get the point for sure. It definitely makes sense. I think Profar is starting to get to that point. The price is getting up there. They're finally adjusting to where he should be. Thank you, DraftKings. I don't know what their lineup's going to look like today. They've been mixing in whether it's their door leading off or Profar leading off. It was projected that he's going to be leading off. I don't know if the lineup's out yet. I like the matchup against Iwakuma. He pitches to contact. The only downside to me in the matchup is he's getting up close to 4K. Like you said, Solarte's the same price in Coors. He's in Seattle, which is not a great hitter's park. So I think if you're going to play Solarte, it's somewhere. I don't know if second or third is honestly better yet until I dig into it, because I do like LeMahieu as well, because he's some of the cheaper top-of-the-order exposure to Colorado, which you do need some sort of Colorado exposure today.
Yeah.
And most of them are over 5K, which is tough, again, on a slate with Kershaw and Coors. I think the only other guy I wrote down is Phil Gosselin. He's hitting second at home in Arizona against a lefty, and he has like a 327 WOBA against lefties. So definitely could see that as probably more. I mean, you if you wanted to, you could play Phil Gosselin and then play Solarte at third and go cheap at both spots, and that's perfectly understandable if you don't want to pay up for Profar or DJ. I would take Gosselin for 500 more than Caesar in a heartbeat in the matchup. And ballpark. I mean, he's under 3K in Arizona, which we always know is like Coors Light. So it's definitely, that's an interesting matchup. All right, so third base. I hope this kind of stood out to you as well. There's a couple guys here I thought were way too cheap today that could play third for you. What were some of the names that stood out to you as being kind of too cheap?
Well, he's shortstop eligible too. Obviously, Manny Machado is way cheap. I mean, he's down $700 from just yesterday, and at one point in the season,
I don't know why Baltimore is so low priced today. I mean, you look at everyone. I mean, you look at Machado, you look at Chris Davis. I don't understand. I mean, I get the matchup's not the greatest against Stroman, but it's Machado.
Yeah,
I think he's not leading off anymore. He's not hitting second. He's hitting third, but still, like.
Yeah.
3,700, and they're on the road.
Yeah, and another thing, too, is Machado is an all-star caliber player, obviously. And at one point during the year, just like a couple weeks ago, he was over 5K. So, I mean, you're getting a big discount, and it's not like he's not been – I mean, he's been fine. I mean, he's a really good player, and I just don't see not paying that price tonight for Machado.
If I told you could have Machado, just toss up regardless of price. If I told you could have Machado or A-Rod, who would you have? Well – regardless of matchup and price, I would take Machado.
Yeah, I mean,
basically all the time. I mean, A-Rod's not the hitter he used to be. He's still fine, but
yeah, he's still
regardless of matchup and price. I mean, today they're the exact same price. I get A-Rod's facing Pelfrey and Machado's not, but he's 100 cheaper than A-Rod. Like, that's kind of insane. And like you said, you can play him at shortstop, which is typically a weaker position. So that's probably where I'm going to lean if I'm going to play him, which I don't see how you don't play him today at 37. It's just cheap.
It's too hard.
I think kind of course, Arenado's in play, but I don't see I can fit him at 50.
So, yeah, he's just so expensive.
But he's finally adjusted to where he should be price-wise. I think Valencia's interesting. He's kind of expensive at 4,300. But home run upside against a lefty in Cincinnati. So definitely in play. I think he's more of a GPP option because I think he'd be like a 5 to 10% guy that could homer for you in Cincinnati.
And I think Josh Donaldson's not a bad play either. He's only.
I didn't consider him, but definitely because Gossman, his price was down as well. He was under. Was he under 4K? Or was he slightly over 4K? I think he was
4.2.
Okay, 4.2. So yeah, definitely in play there. Being pretty cheap today, which. It makes sense that they're trying to get you to take other guys outside of Coors, which finally the slate kind of makes sense to me with the pricing of the Colorado guys. San Diego, for the most part, that makes sense because they're facing Gray, some still underpriced guys like we've been talking about with guys like Solarte. Brett Wallace is another guy. I mean, not a great hitter, but he's hitting sixth for the away team in Coors for 3,200. He's might be pretty chalky. He's only third base eligible. So I definitely isn't the easiest to maneuver if you like other guys. I mean, he's not a great hitter, but again, he's in Coors hitting six for the away team. He's expected to hit six. I don't know if their lineup's been released. I doubt it. I can check. But I don't see it out yet. So definitely an interesting one.
I like Chris Bryant too, but I mean he's 4,800, but he's definitely a good GPP play.
It's normally always in play, regardless. Definitely, I mean Nunez if you want to go off the wall, leading off against Steven Russ. That's too expensive though. When you have when you take into consideration other price, you play Gosselin at third again. Typically, I like playing guys at third. I know that might have home run upside, so I wouldn't really be Gosselin. But I mean, in all honesty, you could play Solarte at second base, play Wallace at third, and play Machado at short, and all those guys are under 4K in great spots or way underpriced. So, all right. So moving on to shortstop. To me, there's only there's only 5 guys that I even consider because normally, like every slate, shortstop's kind of weak.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Machado, I only have 3 guys that I really wrote up.
Okay, so I think Trevor Story, again, another guy over 5K in Coors for Colorado, so I don't think I can get there.
It's tough
to say.
If you wanted to play him, and I wouldn't talk you out of him because he's a great play, but I always think he's more GPP because he's rookie, he strikes out a lot.
Oh, a ton.
A ton, but I mean, he can just, he can smack the home runs. I mean, he can double dong easily. So, I mean, if you played him in cash, I wouldn't talk you out of it. I just, like Michael said, I don't think we're going to be able to reach it tonight.
I think today I would talk you out of it.
I would try to,
of Machado so underpriced at the same position. I mean, you could play Xander at 45.
Yeah, like Xander.
You can play Motter leading off against McCullers for min salary.
Yeah.
If you're not on McCullers, if you're not sold on McCullers, if you're playing him, obviously you could still play Motter just because he's a min salary guy that basically he's free. I might look at Motter. The hard part for me would be if I want Brett Wallace and Solarte and Machado. The guy in that group I would throw out would be Wallace, and then I could always play Motter leading off if I want to pay up elsewhere, or if my salary just doesn't work out with paying up for Kershaw or Strauss. So definitely Motter is a salary saver guy for today if he's leading off as expected. Yeah. I think their lineup is out. It is out, so we can just quickly double check if he's leading off at short, and he's not actually. He's not in the lineup today at all.
Yeah, so.
Force is back leading off. He's only 3-1 at second base. I don't love him simply for the reason of righty on righty, but that makes Motter not an option anymore there at all. So definitely, I think that leans more to even saying you got to play Machado at shortstop.
Yeah, I would say so.
I think he's going to be really high. So, all right. So outfield to me is the most interesting today because there are so many options. So kind of go down the list. Talk about a couple guys you have written down. I mean, you could pay up today. You could pay down today. But I think you're going to kind of be forced to be paying around the 3 to 4K range for most of your outfielders today, somewhere in there, most likely, just because of the pitching.
If you're paying up, obviously the cores lefties, Cargo, Blackman, you can pay. Or I mean Ryan Rayburn, even if he sneaks into the lineup, I don't know which one they're gonna go with.
Yeah, I can see it. I think I saw projected it's gonna be Blackman, Hara,
and Cargo, which is what I'm thinking.
That would make sense. Hara to me is the only guy I'm probably considering. Just the price. Blackman's, I think, around 5,300. Cargo's like 55 or 5,600. Hara's only 44. He's projected at 6, which is not great, but he's cheaper. He's basically the cheapest exposure to Colorado you can get that has home run upside. I mean, think about it. DJ is 46, I believe, at second. So it's not an awful play, but like we talked about, other positions are pretty loaded and locked in kind of with some chalkier plays that I think are in great spots. So Hara, I think, is the only Colorado exposure I'm really considering today just because of the price. That's pretty cheap in cores for him.
Yeah.
It's not a home run. Easily could be a triple. So at 4,400, you don't need a home run and a double, really. I mean, a triple and a single and runs scored and things like that really can be fine.
Yeah, and then two guys down a little bit further that I like, not much. They're still like in the 4 to high 3 range are the Cubs outfielders with Fowler, and you got Jason Hayward.
Yep, I was looking at them as well. I think Hayward's pretty cheap today.
Yeah, I mean,
like we talked about the whole time, Chicago has lefties that can hit the ball, and Norris cannot throw the ball to lefties very well. So, I don't know if I had to pick between the two. It kind of depends. I think Fowler obviously has more home run upside than Hayward this year. He's leading off, stolen base upside. They both really have stolen base upside, and they're almost the same price, $300 difference. So I think it really depends on that. $300 can make a huge difference in your outfield tonight, though, for sure. I think some kind of cheaper plays. Kind of going under 3K or around 3K. I think Kim hitting second for Baltimore. Yes. And like we said, all the Baltimore guys really cheap tonight. He's hitting second on the road, and he can hit the ball pretty well. So 2,700 for him is pretty fair. I think Robbie Grossman against Stephen Wright. The one unknown with that, if you're going to play him in cash, the unknown is really he's a young kid, so I don't think he's faced Knuckleball before, so that's kind of the concern. But he is hitting second at 3,300. John Jay is really cheap.
Yeah.
He's under 4K. He's 3,900 leading off in cores. I don't care who's pitching for Colorado. If a guy's under 4K leading off in cores and Jay's been hitting the ball well the last month, I'm probably going to have to lock in John Jay today.
Yeah.
And he's triple upside again. Like, cores has home run upside obviously for everyone, but I mean the triples there this year have been pretty cool to watch. I think Matt Kemp's in play.
Yeah,
because he's under 5K, and he's really one of the few power threats in that lineup. I mean, you think about, okay, if you're going to predict who's going to go yard and cores for San Diego, Matt Kemp would be the guy you'd say. And like we talked about, I mean, Gray's not going to pitch the whole game. He's going to get to face that Colorado bullpen. So, who else do you have?
Kind of down towards the bottom to save some money. Franklin, Gutierrez against the lefty. I mean, he struggled early in the year versus lefties, but he's gotten it kind of back together. So I think he's a good play if he makes the lineup, which he should. He's obviously always a good play versus lefties.
Yeah, I mean, I wish he was slightly cheaper. I always like him cheaper than around 3K. Yeah. He could get pinch hit for it later in the game. That's always an option with him, always a problem. But, I mean, today he's, again, another guy under 3K that has home run upside. Holland's been absolutely horrendous this year in his starts. So Seattle, their team total's pretty low. I mean, they're only a 4 team total. But when you look at Holland, like, okay, so he's been good this year for when you look at WOBA stats. But when you look at the stats that matter with XFIP and Sierra, they're well over 5. He doesn't strike guys out. He pitches to contact. He's been throwing fly balls. It's in Seattle, but it does, with Gutierrez, I don't think it really matters. I mean, he could save your night in basically the last game of the night with a home run against Holland. I think that's definitely possible to happen. I think kind of off the wall, upside kind of guys, Mazzara in Seattle against Puma. He's only 3,400. Rajay Davis, I wouldn't say he's a bad play, probably leading off against Santiago. Jackie Bradley's always in play, but I think today at 4K, hitting 7th, I mean, that's kind of more of a low ownership type play. But I think one of my favorite guys right now, I haven't dug extremely deep into this, but I really like the play, Jose Bautista.
Oh, he's not. I liked him, but he's not in the lineup tonight.
He's not?
No.
I didn't see
it. Yeah.
Right. He's going to be maybe my top play today.
He was my favorite play.
So it kind of opens Carrera up, leading off at 2-7.
Yeah.
So I didn't see that lineup come out before we started the show. So definitely that's interesting that he's not in the lineup. I was really on him against Gossman, but definitely Ezekiel Carrera, he's another one of those guys under 3K. He's in a lineup that's expected to score runs tonight for the most part. I mean, 4 runs is not a ton for them, honestly. But when you're leading off for Toronto behind guys like Donaldson, it definitely has upside for runs scored, and he can steal a base. For sure, he can steal a base. I like him quite a bit. Then he's not a fantastic hitter. Whenever you're leading off and you're cheaper than 3K in a matchup that's pretty nice, I'm going to definitely take another look at that. But, yeah, so Bautista not being in the lineup definitely hurts there. That was a guy I was really on for against Goss. So Donaldson's certainly in play for the same reasons that I liked Bautista. 2.3 home runs to 9 to right-handers, almost a 30% home run to fly ball rate for Gossman this year to righties. So Donaldson's certainly in play. Do I think Bautista not being in the lineup hurts Donaldson? Sure. Even though Bautista was expected in front of him, I think it still kind of hurts him. So definitely some nice outfield plays. I mean, J.D. Martinez is in play for me against Sabathia. I'm not going to pay that for him today, though, because he's hitting 6th. I wish he was hitting 2nd or 3rd. Beltran.
Yeah.
He's been on fire, and Pelfrey's not good. And it's in Yankee Stadium, but to me, I just have a hard time saying, I'm going to pay 5K for Carlos Beltran right now.
Yeah, all 3 of those Yankees outfielders are...
Given Force Field today, it's like you're telling me I can get Beltran, or I can get almost to Blackman.
Yeah, all 3 of their outfielders, Gardner, Ellsbury, and Beltran are all over 4.5. It's just, there's no way to pay that.
I think Jackie Bradley, like I said, I like his matchup today, but expected to hit 7th. I just don't see it. I think John Jay is going to be chalky, like I said, leading off in 4th.
Yeah.
I think the chalky outfielders, if I had to guess, I think Jay's going to be pretty chalky. I think Kemp could be chalky. I like Parra. I don't think he'll be that. He's never really highly owned. Parra's never really a guy that gets a lot of exposure. I think Carrera could be owned. I think Gutierrez could be owned. It all depends on how you build the rest of your roster because some of the punt plays we talked about aren't in the lineup, so that definitely makes it a little more difficult at some spots. So, all right, so I think that's going to do it for us today on the slate breakdown. So, like we talked about, I think for cash, paying up for a guy like Strasburg or Kershaw is going to be a way to go, and then maybe drop down to someone like McCullers, but more likely Harvey will be kind of the second guy. I think big decision today is, do you pay for Kershaw or Strasburg, since they're basically the same price. If you had to argue matchups, I'd say Strasburg is the better matchup. You can never say Kershaw doesn't have a CGSO upside. Strasburg just honestly doesn't have that right now with how many innings he's pitching. So,
you think Kershaw is more chalky than Strasburg tonight?
I honestly don't know, because I think we're going to see Philadelphia and say, oh, it's Philadelphia. I think the Giants lineup obviously is better tonight now that they have Posey back. If Posey wasn't in the lineup, it'd be a clear play. I mean, Denard Span's not going to give Kershaw any problems. Kobe Tomlinson's not going to give him any problems. There's not a lot of bats in that lineup that I'm overly scared by. You look at Price put up 7 Ks against them in 8 the other 2 nights ago, and should have won that game. So it's definitely not like they can't strike out. Granted, they didn't have Posey in that lineup, so it's definitely, they didn't have Joe Panic. Joe Panic's not in there again tonight, I don't. So definitely a tough decision. Definitely, I'm gonna have to look at it some more. If you want to argue matchup, I think Strasburg's a better matchup. But I think if you consider ceiling, given innings pitched and things like that, and given the game is a 5.5 run total, I think Kershaw has the more upside and even maybe safety, just because Strasburg has these random starts. Sometimes he gets blown up. So, I mean, you look at his starts, he's striking out a ton of guys, but he's not been unhittable. I mean, he's giving up earned runs. You look back at it with Strauss. I mean, I don't know how many games he's really had this year with no earned run. He's giving up runs. So he gave up 3 earned at Cincinnati, gave up an earned run against St. Louis, gave up 2 earned against the Mets, 1 earned against the Mets, 3 against Miami, 4 against Detroit, 2 against Kansas City, 2 against St. Louis, 4 against Minnesota, and none against Miami. So he did 1 star as the first start of the year into Miami. So, yeah, he's going to help you out with the K upside, but the problem for me would be, can he really get to that 40-point ceiling, giving up as many runs as he's been giving up? I think it's more likely you'll see him around the 30-point mark. It's possible he'll go more because it's Philadelphia, but I don't. I think if you argue ceiling, I think Kershaw still is the higher ceiling regardless.
I would agree.
Just kind of be how you think the line. But like we said, I think Harvey's probably going to be the second.
Yeah, I think Harvey's like the key to unlocking your bats, because if you pair him with Kershaw, you got about $3,700 to spend on your bats, and that's a good number with Kershaw. That's great.
Let's talk about, there are a lot of guys under 4K that we really like.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, Harvey could give you a start. Yeah, could he get you 5 fantasy points? Sure. Does he have the upside to get you 25 to 30? Absolutely. I mean, Milwaukee strikes out a ton. It's going to be, the question is which Matt Harvey are we going to see today? Is it going to be the one that's throwing 96 and really making guys swing and miss, or is it going to be the guy that's pitching more to contact and just can't get anyone out, like against the last start against Miami, where he only struck out 3 over 7? So, I mean, he didn't give up. He gave a 1 run, but it's definitely scary right now to roster Matt Harvey. I'm less scared at 83 than I would be close to 10K.
Yeah.
I mean, McCullers, is he a lock? Absolutely not. Tampa still hits the ball well. He could give up a home run or 2. I mean, he hasn't this year, but he could against that offense. So I think the K upside's there for McCullers too, but the argument would be, is he worth 2,000 more? So I think the last thing we kind of want to look at real quick before we call it a podcast is our first is the weather. If there's any concerns, there doesn't look to be any. It's Kevin Roth. If you don't follow him and you play, definitely worth a follow. San Diego, Colorado is yellow-green. There won't be any issues there, really. Yellow in Boston, Minnesota. Everything else seems to be fine. There is 20-mile-an-hour winds in San Francisco, blowing out the center, but that's every game, so that probably won't be a problem there. But other than that, there's really no concerns. So definitely no concerns. LA and San Francisco for rain, never really is. No concerns for Strasburg pitching in Washington. So have at it. Don't be concerned about weather today. So,
wait, one more thing before we get out of here.
Yeah.
We should do this at the end of our podcast. We should each call one dong of the night. We need to do a dong.
All right. Do you want
at least like two? At least like two.
Or do you want to call two? I think we should call two.
Let's call two. Yeah. Okay.
So I'm not going to call any catchers. That's for sure. It's 11-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left center in Coors tonight. Yeah, Kemp might be nice tonight.
Yeah.
And Solarte for sure. I think so if I have to call 2 home runs, and outside of the obvious ones, I think that's kind of a tough one. I'm going to go ahead and call, I think Kemp goes yard tonight. And I think Chris Davis goes yard tonight. I really do. I think it's kind of not an easy thing to call for him. It's kind of 0 fantasy points or a home run most of the time with him. I think he gets Stroman tonight. I think Stroman leaves one fly ball pitcher again. I think he hits one, and that might be why Chris might be my cash game first baseman, just because of how cheap he is. But I could see Will Myers going yard too easily. But I think Chris Davis and Kemp are going to be my calls.
All right, my first one, I'm going to go a little bit off the board just kind of for fun. I'm going to go with Rizzo. I think he's going to dong tonight. Try a little bit off the
board. I definitely could see Rizzo going yard tonight.
Yeah, and then, all right, I'll go really, really off the board for my second one just kind of for fun. I'm going to go with Wellington Castillo, just for fun.
Yeah, I can see it. He's let me down this year when I thought he was going to go yard against the lefty, but maybe it'll be the night tonight. We'll see. Definitely an interesting call. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Leave any comments, like the video, spread around if you like it. We'll be back most likely on Monday with the next slate breakdown for Monday. It might have to be uploaded Sunday night just because of our schedules, but the next slate we'll be breaking down should be Monday. We're only going to be doing the main slate breakdowns, so the games that start at 7 p.m. Eastern. Due to the fact that I am in California Pacific time and Corey's in Eastern time, so definitely schedule's kind of an issue there with any early slates. That's mainly the reason why I don't do weekend slates, just because of how early they start for the West Coast. So we'll be back on Monday with the next slate breakdown. Appreciate you listening. This has been Michael and Corey, and we are out. See you.